In on this, Ralph Goodale is the Liberal House Leader.
Hanging by a thread at the hands of a bungling minister and a Conservative government that simply doesn't believe in fact-based decision-making. The Harper crowd doesn't want anything to stand in the way of their rigid ideology or the application of their pathological partisanship. Don't bother us with the facts, they say. The result is a general dumbing down of government. You saw that when they disposed of Canada's chief science advisor, when they cut funding to the research agencies that were defining climate change, when they meddled in the work of the granting councils, and on it goes. More broadly, whenever anyone dares to speak truth to power in this Neanderthal regime, the messenger is shot. Linda Keane at the Nuclear Safety Commission, Joanne Jalina, the former Environment Commissioner, Paul Kennedy at the RCMP Public Complaints Commission, Peter Tinsley at the Military Police Complaints Commission, the Parliamentary Budget Officer, the Ethics Commissioner, the Information Commissioner, the Chief Electoral Officer, Richard Colvin. The list is endless. Somehow, to this Prime Minister, people like these are not credible. They are not to be believed. They are not to be trusted. But somehow, a no-name bankrupt private detective is. Go figure. This is also a basic issue of honesty. Mr. Clement has implied that Stats Canada itself gave him the advice that scrapping the long-form census would be okay. With Mr. Sheikh's statement last night, that assertion by the minister is now clearly false. He did not tell Canadians the truth. Steamboat Tony is becoming more trouble for Mr. Harper than Helena Georges. To make good decisions, you need good information. That's why the Conservatives' decision to scrap the mandatory long-form census will harm all Canadians, as government and countless others in the private sector will be left in the dark to make bad choices. This isn't about Big Brother invading the bedrooms of the nation. It's about Conservatives dumbing down the integrity of Canadian statistics and threatening the basic services that Canadians rely on, like hospitals and transit systems and public schools. It affects access to emergency services, public health, jobless benefits, services for seniors and new Canadians, transportation, job training, and so much more. The Conservatives continue to ignore business leaders, municipalities, the provinces, Aboriginal groups, healthcare organizations, social services agencies, and many others, while making these ludicrous claims to try to justify getting rid of facts and replacing them with ideology. Despite the outcry from Canadians, Minister Clement is digging in his heels, first by saying that Stats Canada supported his decision when they didn't, and now by muzzling an internal Stats Canada town hall meeting. The Conservatives have made claims that hold no water, like your privacy is threatened by the census, or you'll go to jail for not filling out the form. For the record, no one has ever gone to jail for that reason. The Auditor General says all privacy matters are fully protected, and the Privacy Commissioner has received the grand total of 3 complaints over the course of 15 years. Let's be clear. This is all just a thinly veiled attack on the most vulnerable Canadians and on the ability to help them with progressive programs and services. Stephen Harper can make the long census form voluntary with a stroke of the pen through a secret cabinet order. That's why the Liberal Party has vowed to change the Statistics Act to make the long census form mandatory. We'll also ask for the Industry Committee to call Minister Clement to the carpet and to invite other affected groups to speak out. And today I'm releasing a list of the witnesses that Liberals are hoping that the Industry Committee will hear from. They constitute a broad cross-section of Canadian society, past and present StatsCan officials, and of course, the Minister. Secondly, the Liberal Party is seeking answers by filing an access to information request concerning all documents related to this decision, including correspondence, emails, briefing notes, backgrounders, presentations, fact sheets, memoranda, and records of meetings. We want to know what advice the Conservatives in fact received and ignored before moving ahead on this file without one iota of public consultation. The Minister says StatsCan recommended the change, but StatsCan vehemently denies that. We're going to continue to seek the truth. And thirdly, We want to take direct issue with Maxime Bernier's claim that he received numerous complaints about the long-form census some 4 years ago, though he says those complaints have mysteriously disappeared. Apparently, Mr. Bernier always has some difficulty keeping track of his documents. Though Mr. Bernier cannot point to a single complaint, I can show you hundreds that we have received in the last 2 or 3 days supporting the long form, more than on any other issue recently. The Conservatives' endgame here is clear: to permanently hobble the government's ability to get good data and thereby deliver economic and social programs aimed at the most vulnerable Canadians. To pander to his right-wing Conservative base, Mr. Harper has been cutting funding to everything that they don't believe in: women's groups, pride funding, arts and culture, international development, now research-based policymaking. And, oh yes, blaming his self-imposed Conservative deficit as the devil that made him do it. Once again, we all lose when Stephen Harper puts his narrow partisan interests above those of all Canadians. Thank you.